Hello, gentlemen. Are you guys
Greetings.
bird watchers?
Sometimes on accident, like when I'm driving.
Oh, that went a different direction. Well, anyway, there was this story recently that a pigeon was suspected to be a Chinese spy and detained for 8 months, but was eventually cleared and released back into the wild. I was trying to figure out how exactly they ascertained that a pigeon could have been a spy in the first place, but then what did the interrogation look like for this poor pigeon for them to determine that it actually was not a spy? It took them 8 months, so let's clarify that.
Does Polly really want a cracker? How much does Polly want a cracker? I know it's a pigeon, but see, I only have so many bird jokes.
Oh,
I just want to speak directly to that pigeon and say, look, you did your best. You returned with honor. Great job.
Thank you for your service, pigeon. But I love the concept of using birds like in, just the idea, even if this bird was a Chinese spy, it's so interesting to me that how smart birds are, and especially when they're trained for specific tasks. I've read a bunch of stories on people like befriending entire like flocks or murders of crows. And it's a secret dream of mine. I want to win over an entire like murder of crows and have them just bring me little tidbits and $20 bills.
of all
I've seen a
the
red cardinal almost every day for 2 years.
a red cardinal. That's kind of nice.
It's
Do you have like a
beautiful.
bird feeder in front of your kitchen window or something?
No, and it's been multi-state, so it's wild.
Oh,
Not
I wonder
every
if that's
day,
like,
almost every day. It's
don't
like
they
a
say when
sacred.
yeah,
Yeah, it's wild.
something like that over and over again, it's some sort of sign. Well, take note, Adam. It's a sign. Hey, did you guys know that fun fact, the boxer Mike Tyson, how could you not know who that is? Has pet pigeons?
That's really interesting. It seems like something he would do. He always tries to find like that peaceful side of himself.
Oh, I
You
know
watch
this.
interviews with him, it's really cool because he separates that violent side of himself from who he really is. I watched an interview he did actually with William Shatner, which was really a cool interview. And he started asking him what it was like, and in to be a fighter and what he did. And he talked about how I always cried before I fought,
Hmm.
and I mean it was so interesting. And I know this is sort of side note, but he was talking about, I don't like thinking about that because that's a different person. That person was jealous and angry, and he's like, that's not who I am. So I can definitely picture him being somebody that keeps birds. I think that's a cool thing. Birds are
Hmm.
neat anyway.
Don't know about pigeons. I only work with ravens. So
Well,
Yes.
it makes me wonder a little bit, Mike Tyson, if he has his pigeons trained in tradecraft as well. So we'll have to find out. Interrogate the pigeons. Let's get started with the show.
This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Welcome, Alphas. So thanks so much for joining us. We have a great show for you today. Our guest is Dr. Laurie Marbas, an Air Force veteran and double board certified family medicine and lifestyle medicine physician who's been utilizing food as medicine since 2012. But before we talk with Dr. Marbas, Adam, you've got some news from the American Legion Washington Conference. We'd love to hear it.
that's right, Joe. I got some news you can use. So the VA extends VA access for toxic exposure. Did you hear about this? At the National Commander's Call during the American Legion Washington Conference last month, VA Secretary Dennis McDonough broke the news that beginning March 5th, 2024, any veteran who's exposed to toxins and other hazards during their military service, whether overseas or abroad, will be eligible for VA healthcare. I've already seen some folks posting about this on my LinkedIn. So McDonough said, this is the biggest expansion of VA care in generations, and we want vets to apply as soon as possible. McDonough said, it's quick and it's easy to enroll. They don't need to be sick. They don't need to file a claim before they enroll. Even if they don't think they need this care today, they might need it tomorrow or the next day or even 30 years from now. All they have to do is enroll, and then they have access for life. Sounds pretty sweet. What do you guys think?
I think
I think
that
this is good.
you really should sign up for this. If you're part of the Burn Barrel group, if you're part of anybody who's thinks that there could have been any exposure, you should sign up right now, because it seems like right now it's like open enrollment, and I feel like I'm afraid that if somebody waits until they have symptoms and they really need help, you're seriously going to regret it. You're going to have to, I think they'll be a little more strict about who signs up for it than maybe, well, the VA. I mean, things could change from year to year. So I absolutely agree. You should definitely sign up now.
Yeah. And I think with the work that I'm doing, we recently had a topic about toxic exposure, particularly, and on this little panel discussion, it was a Vietnam era veteran who was suffering from a myriad of diseases, but also diseases that got passed on to his kids and his grandkids. And you don't really know what the ramifications are, the long-term ramifications are of these. I mean, that's why they're doing this. That's why they're offering veterans this opportunity to have coverage. You may not need it now, as it says, but you may need it tomorrow. And so put aside all your humility, and you may be like, well, I don't deserve this, or I'm not sick, I shouldn't be filing claims or getting healthcare. That's fine. You may not know what's secretly lying in wait for you, like so many Vietnam veterans didn't either. So let's take what is being offered and take it to the full extent. That's my opinion.
Yeah, be super humble like me, like too humble.
I really like that they try to make it quick and easy, and they're really putting the emphasis on, like you said, Stacey, if even if you don't think you need it now is the time. During his address, McDonough also discussed steps the VA has taken to protect veterans from claim sharks, changes to direct deposit process for benefit payments, and took questions from the audience. So we'll have the links in our show notes where you can read more and watch the commander's call on YouTube.
All right, Alphas, please stick around. We'll be back with Dr. Marbas right after the break.
As a veteran, you've done more than your fair share of providing support. Now it's our turn. Introducing the WellCare and the American Legion Partnership and the WellCare Medicare Advantage Plan. They give you more support, more access, and more benefits in addition to your VA benefits. Visit wellcareforveterans.com today or call 844-917-1165. Ohana Health Plan, a plan offered by WellCare Health Insurance of Arizona, Inc. New Mexico dual eligible special needs plan members. As a WellCare by Allwell DSMP member, you have coverage from both Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid services are funded in part by the state of New Mexico. New Mexico Medicaid benefits may be limited to payment of Medicare premiums for some members.
Today we are joined by Dr. Laurie Marbas. Dr. Marbas, I know that you're an Air Force veteran. I am too. So let me thank you from one airman to another. Welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for your service as well. All of you.
Thank you. So I'm Joe. I was a corpsman with 2-1 Marines, went over and got a little banged up over there. And so when I got back, I found myself not taking great care of myself. I gained a whole bunch of weight. I wasn't able to walk very well because I had a prosthetic on the left side above knee, and on the right side, I had a bunch of issues, fused ankle and things like that. So I wasn't taking great care of myself. I got my service dog, started walking, started going back to the gym, and I learned something really interesting. You can work out as much as you want, but until you get your food right, you're never really going to see results. You can't work out through bad nutrition. And so it's so hard to push past those ingrained bad habits until we're seeing the consequences of those things. And so I personally learned that even without cardio, if you get your food right, you can drop 50, 60 pounds in a really reasonable amount of time with a decent workout regime. You obviously, they work great together, but food is like 80%. Even ask any bodybuilder, ask anybody that goes to the gym, food is 80% easy. So I wanted to ask you, why do you think we hold on to these bad habits when they're demonstrably false? They're ineffective. They don't work. And how do we approach like helping others through those bad habits when for some reason ego is involved?
Mm. Well, how long do we have?
We have an
Um,
hour. Keep it.
right.
No, I'm just-
Keep it concise, Laurie. Keep it concise. So, it's a really interesting thing. It's a great question because so many of us deal with it. We're like, they do this New Year's resolution, and then 2 weeks later, they fall back to their old habits. Like, why as humans do we do this? Why is there a 1% of us that seem to be able to look at this and go, I'm going to fix it. They fix it. And you're like, how did you do that? Well, I will say those people intrigued me, right? So as I was coming out of the Air Force and then I moved to Colorado, I really started getting involved with, I'm a family medicine by training and board certified, but to what's described as lifestyle medicine. And we speak about certain pillars of health, nutrition, exercise, restorative sleep, stress management, building community, and avoiding things like, toxins like cigarettes and excessive alcohol use, those things. So when you look at the actual psychology of these habits, that's really the important piece here, is right? Because why are we in this environment so prone to continue doing things we know are not very helpful for us? Well, it goes back to the brain and the caveman brain. So if you go back 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago, we didn't live in this world of excess. We didn't live in a world of ultra processed foods. We didn't live in a world where companies hire people to make and manufacture Franken foods that we become literally addicted to, right? And so then we also live in this world of stress that is constantly hammering us, right? We haven't understood that there is a piece of when we watch television, when we are looking and scrolling on Instagram, when we're doing shopping instantly, like this instant gratification piece, there's so many things manufactured to take our time that we're hitting these dopamines in our brain. So when we go back to the caveman brain, we think about food in its whole form is what we had available to us. So the brain is like, this is a strawberry. It's quite tasty. Remember, brain, where this came from, go back to it, eat as much of it as you can. Because today we had food, tomorrow we might have famine. But now we live in a place of there is no famine. It's always feast, right? And so that's the piece that we need to understand is our biology is set up for us to eat these things. So you're just doing what our body is meant to do. Why do we rather sit on the couch? Well, because there's energy conservation, right? So when did you used to run? You used to run from saber-toothed tigers or whatever, right? But now we're
I hate
constantly
those things.
I know, right? Jeez. But now we're constantly running and dealing with stressful emails, stressful relationships, right? There's so many factors involved in our environment. And until we understand we can have a different relationship with these things, that is where the power sits. And I think it's really a matter of understanding that you can observe the emotion, observe the cravings, observe thoughts. And when you disengage from it, you don't create the relationship. You don't build the ego or the story that we have to live to, or we identify with the roles, the whatever you put out there. There is a being within all of us, the human, and then the being piece. That's where the power lies, that you can make different decisions because now we're not connected emotionally or living up to something. Like when you feel like you have to be always perfect, let's say as a physician, number one, when you first step out of training, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be taking care of people and I have no one to help me. And you're like, I always have the right answer and you always have to do this. There's that expectation. As a mother, I have 3 grown children. What was those expectations of those kids, right? What kind of expectations did I have of them? Or I was judging my neighbor because they left the trash bin out. All these things that we build up constantly, like this is energy that we don't need to be dealing with.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating when you disengage with that, become the observer and let it just kind of flow right through you. Don't fight it, don't resist it. That's when you can see the power change. And that's called mindfulness. And when you look at the habits, right, you have a prompt, you have a behavior, the eating, whatever, and you have the reward. When we look at the reward, the mindfulness piece, that coming out of the habit, when you're seeing it, observing what you're doing, asking questions, acknowledging that it is what it is, and making different decisions from giving it space, that is the key where you'll see those bad habits dissolve and very, very quickly. I'll give you a great example. I had a patient when I was in Colorado. And this gentleman, I lived in a place called Rifle, Colorado. Okay, imagine the individual who would live in a place called Rifle, Colorado. You would be correct. Okay, so hard workers, ranchers, you name it. Like these guys, they would live to be 110 in an apocalypse. It's just the way these guys, like they're tough people, many veterans, amazing people. So this one gentleman, he came in to see me. He had been smoking, I don't know, 40 plus years, probably 2 packs a day. And I'm doing all my doctoring things. You got to stop. There's lung cancer risk. You'd save money. I'm coming up with everything and everything. He's like, yeah, but I like it. I'm like, well, I check off. I did the best I can. Can't help everybody.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. He said he came back one day. He's like, Dr. Marbas, I quit smoking. I was like, okay, obviously there's nothing I did here. What did you? Because nicotine is one of the hardest things to quit. And especially with servicemen, that is a drug of choice in many, many places. He goes, well, I was sitting in my chair one day and my granddaughter came up to me and she's like, was crying. She's like, Pop, I don't want you to die. And he's like, darling, I'm not going to die. Why do you say that? She goes, well, I learned in school that people who smoke, they die. And that means you're smoking, you're going to die. And he's like, right then and there, the reward for that habit of smoking went away. He says, I never wanted to smoke again. And that's the power of dissipating the reward of this habit loop, right? And so that is the piece there. That's why we keep doing the things, because we just can't break out of the habit loop because we don't even know we have these habit loops. And so anyway, there's a whole process you can do, but I'm hoping I'm answering this in a concise enough way.
It's great. I love it because you mentioned the relationship and I think that's one big way of looking at it, because in every relationship, there's someone in control. And I think that's the main thing is that reward, of balancing that reward versus, your goals. And so I love that. Adam's mouth is down there. He's just ready. He's like roaring. He's got some stuff, I think. But I thank you so much. That was a fantastic answer to the question.
All right.
No, Dr. Marbas, I really appreciate that too. And I think maybe just a continuation of that theme is kind of where I wanted to go next, and really kind of ask you, what does it mean to be on a wellness journey? And so I'll give you a little bit more context. So you're a renowned board certified lifestyle and family medicine physician. You're licensed to practice in all 50 states and in DC. And when I was, looking at some of your offerings, I kept seeing these recurring, themes and kind of messaging centered around this health and wellness journey. So something that's personalized, comprehensive, ultimately boils down to the prevention instead of symptom management. So, I work a lot on veteran mental health issues, and, we see the exact same thing. I mean, they're so closely and intrinsically tied together with respect to symptom masking medication, as opposed to be able going to the root cause of the issue at hand. So can you talk just like a little bit more about what it means to be on a wellness journey, as opposed to maybe more conventional standards of care predicated on sickness as you see it?
No, that's such a lovely question, because I think it's the pulse of where we are in medicine, is that we're disease management, right? We're not a healthcare system, we're a disease care system. And I think all of us could appreciate that. And there's an underlying dissatisfaction when you go in to see your doctor and you tell them your symptoms, and they write you a script and hand you off, right? You feel like you're not being seen as a human, like the whole person. So what it means to be like on this wellness journey, I think, is a direction, right? So you need to understand this is a compass, right? So if we're heading west, wellness is west. There's never really an end to our destination. It's just a journey. That's the piece here. There's no perfection in the journey. There's going to be highs and lows, like anything with life. There's going to be moving forward and stepping back and learning from those opportunities of quote unquote failure, where they're not really failure. I consider them data gathering opportunities, and you learn from them, right? These are lessons that you had to learn to move even further forward. And so that's really the piece here, is understanding, first of all, everyone's journey is going to be different. They're coming to a place where they're ready to do different things because they're tired of getting the same results. They're tired of suffering. And when you hit that suffering mark, I'm very stubborn. It took me like to change habits, right? Change the way you're seeing things. That's when you're ready to really embark on a true health wellness journey. And the other piece is detaching from the outcome, because when we look at the journey we have, most of the time is a very hard and fast finite goal. And that really might set us up for failure, because at the end of it, when we get there, maybe we do hit that goal. Maybe we hit that scale, that number on the scale. And then we're like, okay, but I don't feel well. I'm tired. I've starved. And now I'm going to go back to eating. And now, but instead of looking at it and going, okay, I want to be healthy and be able to move my body and maybe reduce medications, instead of like thinking about there has to be this perfection, right? That, I think we've all heard, don't let, perfection get in the way of progress. But this really is that we need to understand, one, that's the journey, the definition. And then two is, let's look at engaging with our healthcare system in a different manner, right? So instead of being a physician who just writes prescriptions, and I still write prescriptions, don't get me wrong, I'm very thankful that we have medications, but that's just one tool of a toolbox that needs to be very broad. And so a big piece of, I think, family medicine, at least what the work that I do, is almost psychology in of itself, to help people reflect back to them what they're saying to me and understand what their values are. I don't think so many of us understand what our personal values are. Once you connect with those personal values, that's going to lead you into what direction you're going. So let's say, for example, I had a patient who came to me. She had a significant amount of weight to lose. And I was like, okay, why do you want to lose weight? She goes, well, because I want to move around better. I was like, why do you want to move around better? And she's like, well, I want to be able to fly without asking for that lap extension. I was like, why do you want to fly? She goes, well, now the tears started coming. She goes, I want to be able to travel to see my daughter in Europe, and I haven't been able to do that. So that is the true reason. What is her value? At first, you might have said, oh, her value is health because she wants to lose weight. No, actually, her value is family. And her value is the connection and the relationships. And that's what brings power and value to her. And that was what we needed to connect with in order for her to move forward in her journey. And what did her journey look like? It wasn't the 20-year-old body. She was a 65-year-old body. That's the other piece. I mean, I'm living in a mid-50s body that's postmenopausal. It ain't what it was 25 years ago. And that's okay. This is the reality of a body that ages, and I'm okay with that. And once you understand that, and you can kind of laugh at yourself of the expectations, I mean, you really just step back and observe some of their behaviors and our beliefs and thoughts and give yourself freedom. That is the power of the journey. And that's what I try to encompass or try to bring to the patients, to say, again, your journey is not going to be your neighbors or your sisters or your brother or whoever is making judgment and telling you have to do it this way. Let's talk about what this means for you, because everyone's values are different. And I've had people say, Dr. Marbas, I've never had anyone ask me what my values are. I don't even know where to begin. And they don't understand that. And that is heartbreaking, because they've been living their life making decisions based on other people's expectations and judgments. And then that's where the discontent comes. And that's where it gets really difficult to struggle in life. It's just the suffering is just profound. But that is really fun to work with people that way.
Wow, what a great walkthrough on that, and really identifying with, it's a journey mindset. It's personalized and individualized to me, and so should my plan and care. And I should be able to detach from those outcomes and be able to really look at the process. And it's not just the process of, I need to lose 20 pounds. It's really discovering who you are and why you're existing. And I just think you covered that so eloquently. Thank you. I think Stacy has a question for you.
I do, because you mentioned journey.
Yeah.
And our life is this journey, right? And several influences of where our direction goes and what those influences have on the choices that we make and those habits that you talked about. Well, some of those things that happen to us aren't of our own making. And for instance, many of our alphas that are listening are veterans, combat veterans particularly, in some cases, like myself, and those who served during my generation, mainly veterans of the Afghan and Iraq wars. And like so many veterans, I have a traumatic brain injury, which later resulted in a seizure disorder. And then you talked about aging. So I love that Adam asked that question, because you're hitting on all the points. But then coupled with the aging process. And in recent years, it was right around the time I was turning 40, I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which happens to, if you're going to have RA, I think that's the usual average, though I'm no doctor, wink, wink. So anyway, I've got one of those like old timer pill organizers, right? Where every day, or like I have a week and I'm like dishing it out all my pills and I'm getting my pills organized. But I've realized now, and I'm big on to what you are, what you eat, and what you put in your body, and it influences how your emotions are, and if it's going to prompt a seizure, like in my case, or if it's going to cause additional inflammation when it comes to my arthritis. So my question to you is, what can veterans like myself or the alphas listening out there who have similar issues, what can they do with their diets? How can they change their diets to reduce chronic inflammation or say neurological pain? What goes into diet planning?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. The diet is a big component, like you mentioned. Joe said, the Pareto's law, the 80-20 rule, right? And so what I found is there's 4 areas of life that if I can help someone move in the right direction, a lot of things start falling into place. And diet is primarily the first one we talk about. I think stress management's a big one, because sleep and then relationships get better. Being able to move gets better. So I personally advocate a whole food plant-based diet. Now, there might be people who are like, oh, I can't do that. Hear me out. I'll tell you where my journey began 12 years ago, and why it's presented itself to me. And I dove into the science, and I've been yet to be disappointed. And I went down this rabbit hole. I've yet to emerge. It's been such a lovely and fascinating journey to walk with people to literally reverse things like autoimmune disease or greatly improve their inflammation. So this started 12 years ago. I had a patient come to me, said meat and dairy upset my stomach. I'm like, stop eating meat and dairy. She's like, okay. I knew intuitively that meant there would be plants that she could eat, but I didn't say, oh, a plant-based diet. Like this, I had never heard of a plant-based diet. I ate pretty healthy anyway. I didn't eat like a standard American diet. So I wasn't dealing with a lot of the chronic diseases that so many people are dealing with. But anyway, I made notes in my little note. She came back in 30 days, but she brought her daughter with her. And I was like, this is interesting. 16-year-old daughter. I swear, nothing's prepared me to be a doctor better than being a mother, because I've had a lot of these conversations. I'm like, I'm ready. And like, she made her daughter miss school to bring her to this appointment. And I'm like, oh man, am I having a sex talk on a Monday morning? 16, this is what I'm thinking. Again, I'm projecting. I shouldn't be projecting. But what was interesting, she was like, okay, you tell Dr. Marbas what you did. I mean, this kid's missing school to come to her mother's appointment. I'm like, I'm really stressing out about this. And she's like, well, Dr. Marbas, I wanted to help my mom eat healthy, and lived in Rifle, Colorado. At that time, there's a Walmart and one other grocery store. There are no plant-based restaurants. There's no places to go order. So they were cooking at home, number one. Removing ultra-processed foods, right? The Franken foods that I kind of referred to earlier. And she goes, I felt so good that I stopped both my ADD medications. I was like, you did what? And she goes, her mom goes, yeah. Why was she able to do that? Not in an angry sense, but of a frustration as a mother who'd been dealing with a child that couldn't focus, had to be on medications, right? That she's like, you're going to have to be on the rest of your life. You can't focus. Be on these medications that have potential to be very serious side effects. And I was like, I don't know, but that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. And so we started talking. He's like, what were you eating? Well, we were eating what you said. I was like, no, tell me. Apparently, it's like my dimmer switch was really slow to be turned up. It was fruits and veggies and beans and whole grains and nuts and seeds. I was like, so you're eating plants? She goes, oh my God, yes. And I'm like, I get it. Okay, so keep doing what you're doing. And she went on to do very well. Stayed off the medications, graduated high school. But that got my brain started going. Like, it was like the little emoji with the exploding brain. Mine was like freaking out. So I started doing some Googling. A book came up, and it was right after the appointment. It was called The China Study. I literally Amazoned it. I read this book. It's like 400 pages. I read it in 2 days. They were turning off cancer with plants, and I'm freaking out. I'm telling my husband, he'd walk by. I was like, they're turning off cancer with plants. He goes, okay. Like, Laurie, I don't know where you are, but come back when you're done. And So I was reading all this stuff, reading about this anti-inflammation, right? So you think about it, attention deficit disorder, anxiety, depression, inflammation of the brain, right? So many things, autoimmune disease, the body's turning in on itself, it's attacking itself. And so what happened was I'm reading about it. I'm trying to figure out what to do because I'm a true believer. You have to walk the talk. If I'm going to tell you to do something, you better believe I'm doing it myself, or at least attempting to do it. And I had a lupus patient come in 2 weeks later. Now, lupus is an autoimmune disease. It can be terminal, can be quite devastating. It presents differently in different people. Kidney, issues, fatigue, joint pain, difficulty walking. So this poor woman, she was younger than me at that time. She had had lupus for about 2 or 3 years. She was on 12 different medications, high doses of steroids, on medications to suppress her immune system, 50 pounds overweight, migraines most days of the week. She came, she's like, Dr. Marbas, I don't know if I can keep working. And here's a young woman in the prime of her life, who has a family to support, dealing with this devastating disease, all the side effects of these medications. And she's like, I don't know what to do, help. And all the whole time, I'm sitting there going, I need her to eat plants. I'm going to tell her to eat these plants. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to tell her to eat plants. And so I was like, I don't know a whole lot about this, but I've been reading about this plant-based diet. All I know is let's try to change what's on the end of your fork. Let's see what happens. And she's like, I'm so desperate. Yes. So we measured her CRP. It's an inflammatory marker. It was 3 times high normal that day. Now remember, she's on all these medications that are suppressing inflammation. And she came back in 2 weeks. I said, you have to come back in 2 weeks. I can't wait 30 days. I'm very excited about what could potentially happen. And she did. She lost 8 pounds. Her migraines disappeared. She felt so good. Within 5 months, if you fast forward 5 months, she was off 7 of the 12 medications. Now, there were other medications she'd be on the long term. She was 50 pounds lighter. She was off the methotrexate. She was off of the prednisone. And within 2 years, her lupus antibodies had reversed completely.
Wow. That's pretty
And
Wow.
so at that point, I'm about a month into my going deep into this plant-based diet. I was like, now at this time, this was 12 years ago, I had an 18-year-old, I had a 15-year-old, and a 13-year-old, and God bless my poor husband. He was there too, in my home. So I went home that night. It was a Friday. I will never forget. I literally took a garbage can, trash can, and I threw everything that was of animal origin out in a garbage, filled it up, put it in the trash. I had a quart of a grass-fed beef, thinking I was being healthy, in my freezer in my garage. I was going to deal with that in a minute. But then I started looking at ways to this. My kids were like, mom's doing whatever mom does. And they knew better than to argue with me. They're like, mom's like, if mom cooks, this is what we got. If we don't eat it, we'll be hungry the next meal. This is how I made it through life. Like, this is, you will survive, I promise. My husband's like, are you still cooking? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay. And so let me tell you, that was a Friday. Sunday, I went to church. We came back. The freezer had broke in the garage. There was massive fluid from the corpse of this thing coming down. I don't know if you've ever, the stench. Anyway, my husband's like, Laurie, if you hadn't been with me, I could have sworn that you unplugged this freezer. I was like, that is a big man upstairs saying we are done. And I haven't eaten meat or dairy since. And I will tell you, it has been the most amazing thing. My husband, I think we've been married, how long then? 19, 20 years. He lost 70 pounds in 3 months. Okay.
And how long? 3 months?
In 3 months. It was amazing. He was literally, we got married right out of college. We were healthy weight, but he just was stressed, eating, and just kind of gained weight over the time. I have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's at the birth of my second child. So let's see, Jonathan's almost 28 now. So he was 15 at that time. And I'd had this for 15 years. I had no clue that, now this is an autoimmune disease. I had no clue that changing my diet like that would improve. What I did notice is that within 3 months, I had no allergies, which I'd suffered with my entire life. Don't take any, I was taking 3 Allegra, nasal sprays, eye drops to deal with my chronic allergies. I thought I would just inherit it, gone. Then my numbers improved so dramatically with my thyroid. I started having symptoms of hyperthyroidism because I was taking too much medication. So I had to drop my medication. And that was just so wild. I mean, I'm still taking thyroid medication, it's the only medication I take, but I was like, what is going on? This is insane. And yeah, rheumatoid arthritis, great rheumatoid arthritis patient story. She also, this is in Rifle, and got her to go plant-based. She lost 40 pounds. It was around the holidays. She went to visit her mother-in-law, apparently, who made the brisket to die for. Well, she said, Dr. Marbas, I ate 2 inches by 2 inches of this brisket. Within hours, her hands were swollen and painful. And she goes, I had pain for 48 hours. And I was like, well, was the brisket worth it? She goes, heck no.
wow.
She used other colorful language, but I was like, absolutely. So RA works very well with a plant-based diet. It's probably the autoimmune disease that I would say the most quickly and efficiently will improve. But what's happening? We're dropping this inflammatory thing. Like, we're removing these foods that contain things that cause inflammation. We're allowing our microbiome to heal and grow an amazing microbiome, very diverse, right? We're dealing with, you know, impermeability of our gut. There's so many things that are occurring, phytochemicals and vitamins and stuff that are coming from this plant-based diet. And yeah, so I don't know what to tell you. There's amazing athletes that do this. I have helped people. My greatest weight loss story was 350 pounds of one patient. You know, it's type 2 diabetes. I had to stop 60 units of insulin on someone in 72 hours. Like, this is insane. And I'm just like, what is going on? You've seen cholesterol drop, you know, anywhere from 25 to 50%. I was like, I still don't understand. It's amazing. So again, moving in the general direction of plant-based is going to be great. If someone feels like they can't do fully plant-based, at least move in that direction. I think there's always benefit by adding more fiber. We are fiber deficient in this country. So yeah, that's my plant-based story. And that's why I get so excited about helping people, because it moves the needle so quickly. They feel good. Yeah, it's fun.
What about you, Joe? What about you? You into meats and meat substitutes?
You know,
Interesting. Go ahead.
that's
Sorry.
exactly what I was about to ask, because
Yeah.
as somebody who, you know, for me, not eating makes me gain weight. When I binge eat these like 2 big meals a day, I don't feel well. I don't do well. When I increase that to 5 to 6 meals a day, much smaller meals, that's what sort of kickstarts my metabolism. And I think we can all agree that the early meat substitute stuff had a very unique taste, kind of like a salt block mixed with a cardboard sandwich.
Right.
But I have always sort of hoped that there was going to be somebody, and you know, and I did periodically buy them, because I'm not, you know, vegetarian nor vegan myself, but I think that is a more sustainable thing in the long run, and for most people. And I have to say, you make the most compelling argument. The problem is with things that change your life is it's easy to look like a cult. It's easy to make it be like, that's why you got people that, you know, make jokes about CrossFitters or Apache helicopter pilots. Like,
whoa, slow down, Joe.
Adam's an Apache helicopter veteran, so
If you would have given me enough time, I would have told you that, Dr. Marbas.
So I have to say that when I visit my local, very small local place, you may have heard of it, called Starbucks. They've got the Impossible Breakfast Sandwich, and at the pace that I'm a very efficient eater, I like to get it done as quickly as possible. I have other things going on that day, normally every day. It's basically indistinguishable now. It's good. It's legitimately good. And so, you know, what are your feelings on this growth of meat substitute, or do you feel like it is a sort of holding on to something that we should be stepping away from? I feel you look like you've got a pretty strong opinion about this one.
Well, and that's what it is, an opinion, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, I would say I really try to speak in facts. When people ask me my anecdotal experience, I'm going to share with you those amazing stories of patients, because that's what I've seen, right?
Yeah.
So everybody who introduces more plants into their diet, like I literally deal with every single day, thousands of patients over the years. Everyone has benefited to some degree. So that's number one. And these are whole plant foods. And I think that's the other thing that we need to focus on, is the whole plant, not the processed plant foods, right? So fantastic. When you look at it from the component of a vegan ethical standing, they're going to be all about the animals. That is amazing. There will be less animal death and torture. And I think we can all agree that factory farming is horrible for the planet. It's horrible for the environment. And so from that standpoint, I think that's fabulous. Now, from the health standpoint, from the human health standpoint, these are maybe a little bit better than, the standard processed meat products but they just don't have cholesterol, but they're still going to be provoking inflammation. They have saturated fats. They're going to add to the burden of heart disease. It's a #1 killer of Americans and, men and women. So that is the piece here that we need to pay attention to, is that I think it can be utilized in 2 ways as a transition food. So if someone's like, I need to have my meat. Okay, well, all right, let's keep doing it. But let's then talk about what to expect. Instead of saying I need to substitute my meat, instead of saying this is just a different way of eating that sustains health and makes you feel better. You're not going to be replacing what you're removing. So instead of looking at it as a way, I'm not going to I'm looking at what are the benefits, right? Instead of focusing on, the deprivation, I'm going to be looking at, oh man, I feel good. I have tons of energy. I sleep better. My joints don't hurt. I'm healing better. I don't get sick as much, right? So those are the benefits that I want people to focus in on, instead of like latching on to what they can't have and like, I'm depriving myself. That is where anything gets hard. And the more, again, you fight it, resist it, you'll eventually go back to that, and you'll go back to not feeling well again. And, but you can absolutely, my husband did his first full Ironman at 49 on a plant-based diet. My teenagers played all sorts of sports on a plant-based diet. Gabe even did a half Ironman. And I think he was like 20 or something. I run multiple halves and a full marathon on a plant-based diet. So again, I think, looking at it as, this is not a cult. These are just the facts. The science supports it. And again, I don't ever say vegan, very, very seldom, because I don't want to, there's so much emotion and judgment and that comes from that. Instead, I'm like, let's walk into a place of understanding what you're feeding your body and what we need to feed your body to make it well. And then let me make the argument why plants can sustain that. And then there's all the other amazing benefits. So if climate works for you, great. If animals is a thing, great. Whatever it is, that's fine. But let's look at the true fact on the table, is that I've yet to have a patient get worse on a plant-based diet. So that is 12 years of seeing thousands and thousands of patients. So, yeah.
Well, then as a very quick follow-up question on that, what is your favorite food? What is your favorite thing to eat? I'm curious.
Oh, that would be the jumbo blueberries.
Jumbo blueberry. All right.
My goodness. It's like crack for me. Yeah. I want to tell you, they're just delicious.
No, that's a good
it's
one.
Nature
That's
Skittles.
a good one.
I do like Mexican food if you're looking for a flavor.
Blueberries. Frozen blueberries.
Frozen wild blueberries, amazing antioxidants.
Yes.
We do this strawberry praline salad thing that we do sometimes that we really like.
Yes.
That's really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you got something for her, Adam.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you've said so many wonderful things. And I think where I want to go next is maybe to get kind of, practical for the listeners a little bit. And so maybe I'll tee it up a little bit and give you like a little anecdotal story. So I know on your website, and we'll have a link to it in the show notes, you have a 21-day weight loss, challenge and offering. And, for me personally, while this is maybe outside of the parameters of that challenge, I've actually done a 21-day fast and a 40-day fast.
Wow.
And they were pretty extreme, as you might imagine. And I'm not saying that, our listeners need to take that on. But there's also a lot of references to fasting in the Bible, and and it's not always like a complete abstinence from food. Like there's an example in like Daniel 1:12 where after being questioned why he wasn't partaking in the king of Babylon's delicious food and wine and delicacies, that he said that he would only eat vegetables and drink water for 10 days. And after 10 days, he was to be evaluated at basically his health, wellness and appearance. And of course, or maybe surprisingly, he was found to be in better health and appearance than those that partook in the royal foods. And I think, we're just supposed to, it's the delicacies, it's the breads, it's the meats, it's the most wonderful, things. But if someone, because a 21-day challenge might be too much, 40-day fasting might be too much, but I think 10 days, at least as a starting point, of vegetables and water is pretty palatable for most folks. So what would happen, to an individual? What kind of things could they expect, maybe even just a 10-day period? Or how might they begin to feel after starting on this, maybe based on some of the results that you've seen?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So that's how the Daniel fast came to be, right? So you'll hear of churches doing it, a Daniel fast, and so they're eating plant-based foods. And I think it's a wonderful illustration. Even in Genesis, we started out eating plants. So if you want to take it from the biblical standpoint, and there's some components of Revelation that actually point back to a plant-based diet too. So not to get theology involved here, but let's talk about what would happen with a human being who chose to do a plant-based diet. I would be mindful of a few things. There's some caveats here. If you are on medications for diabetes, such as insulin and other oral medications that drop your blood sugar very quickly, or hypertension medications, we have to be very careful when you step into looking at a plant-based diet, because things can shift very quickly. So that's where you need a medical professional to be helping you manage that. There's an art, not necessarily a science. You weren't taught how to de-prescribe medications. I was very well prescribed, learned how to prescribe, but the de-prescribing is definitely something that needs to be managed very carefully. And so those are the warning signs. The thing that I would say that's really important, a lesson that I learned when I first started helping people transition to a plant-based diet, they naturally, when I was like, go eat plants without kind of a guideline, they went to the produce section. They okay, rabbit food, lettuce, fruits, veggies, which is fantastic. There's amazing, but these are very low calorie foods. So if you're thinking that you're going to go exercise and maintain, enough to keep going, you need to be understanding that you're going to be eating a very low calorie diet. You could eat a ton of these foods and not get enough calories to satiate you or give you the energy that you need. So make sure that you're also building at least half or 3/4 of your plate full of whole grains, starchy vegetables, beans, legumes, lentils, and nuts and seeds, avocados, things like that. This is where the more calorically dense foods, they provide you the fullness and, provide the satiety long-term that you feel good. And so that's the piece here. So that I would say, if you're going to be doing something like that, when it comes to doing water fast, I would recommend not doing more than 3 days. And that's only for someone who's in relatively good health without certain medications. Because again, there can be some problems with electrolytes when you start going past that. And again, you may even want to do just maybe time restricted eating, where you're doing 16 hours of a fast, including your overnight sleep, and then just eat within a certain time window. Some people do very well with that. And there's some definite things that you need to be careful about as far as long-term water fasting as well, beyond the electrolytes, is also loss of muscle mass. And you have to be thinking about a few different things there. So again, lots of things to think about. So I would just be very careful about doing water strict fasting. But if you're going to be doing, let's say, 10 days of a plant-based diet, just build your plate around the rainbow of colors. Make sure you're including, the 5 different ones. It's fruits, it's veggies, it's beans, lentils, legumes, things like that. You're doing your whole grains and your nuts and seeds, because you need those healthy fats. There's a bit of fat phobia, I think, in some people. You need if you're a woman, maybe a handful or a 1/4 cup of nuts and seeds daily. If you're a male, you go like half a cup or something. You get a good mix. You're not getting so many calories from those. And so that's how I would start, and start with familiar recipes, foods. Oatmeal, like if you're, so many people already eat oatmeal. Instead of eating the instant oatmeal, try to move up to rolled oats, or if you're doing rolled oats, maybe go up to steel cut oats. So doing less processed foods, throw in some fruit, walk away from the cow's milk and move to like soy milk, or move to cashew or almond milk, different things there. Tofu scrambles are amazing. Soy is an amazing product. It will not cause breast cancer. The science does not show that. It actually shows it competes with your native estrogen and actually decreases risk of breast cancer, increases survivability. it's great for cholesterol. It's fantastic for your bone health. It hits what we call the different type of estrogen. There's an alpha estrogen and a beta estrogen receptor, and it prefers the beta. And so it actually preferentiates or promotes these amazing health benefits. So people are like, oh, phytoestrogens, they act like estrogens. That is not how it works in the body. You need to go back to physiology 101 and understand what's going on. But anyway, yeah, so I'm a big fan of soy products as well.
We
I
should
think those
use
are some.
kudzu. We could solve world hunger with kudzu in the South. Holy cow.
Yeah.
What
Sorry,
is
just had to add that.
kudzu? I don't know what kudzu is.
Really? We'll talk about it later. It's great. It grows
think-
like that much every day.
I think that was some incredibly sound, practical advice, Dr. Marbas. So I really appreciate that. And I think it's, whenever you're taking on a big change, any kind of change, whether it's your diet or anything else, it can be hard and challenging. There's that psychological component. So just having some sound guidelines and just knowing that it's just one step forward at a time. So thank you for that. Stacey, I know you've been reading up on plants and some of the benefits.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have always looked at whole foods for myself, especially when I started having seizures. But I also was diving in because I do have post-traumatic stress, and mental health is obviously always in the forefront of my mind, and how I can, continue to improve my mental well-being. And then again, you are what you eat. And through the process of doing some research, I discovered that a lot of plant foods contain natural MAO inhibitors or natural antidepressants. Can you dive in a little bit about how food can impact mental health, and what types of foods, say, work best for somebody who may be struggling with a little bit of depression or anxiety?
Yeah, so I think that's really important, especially given the audience that we're dealing with. But I think there's so much trauma in just the general population. There's sexual trauma, childhood trauma, and you compound that with, if you have someone who's a vet or whatever, the top suicide profession is actually physicians. And so it's a really interesting thing to understand mental health and its components, because it'd be quite tricky, right? And so but it's such an important piece. You can have low level anxiety, you can have high anxiety, where it's just people can't function, right? And they literally just can't make it through a day. And so I think it's such an important thing. And I'm so happy that people are talking about it more now, and that I feel like the general practitioner, your primary care doctor, is going to be better equipped to do that. My daughter's actually a physician. She's a family medicine doctor as well. And she learned so much more about it than I ever did, especially walking into the Air Force as a newly minted physician. And just like, whoa, what am I dealing with here? And then being deployed myself, I totally appreciate that, what you're dealing with and what people would tell me, the stories that they're seeing. So one is to honor, first of all, that you are a person who's been through some amazing and difficult things, and what can you do to help facilitate healing? And there's lots to it. Of course, you have your therapy and all that, but let's talk about what's going on in our body that's creating brain inflammation. So these are going to be the foods, right? It's a variety of plant foods. They're going to have different types of fiber that get to the gut. So that gut is so important in building this amazing microbiome. There's a vagus nerve. The most of our lymph and our immune system resides in the gut. We have the gut talks to our brain. The brain talks to the gut. When you get those butterflies in your stomach, there's a vagus nerve connection. There's a highway that's occurring. 90% of our serotonin, a good feeling hormone, is actually made in the gut. So we want good gut bacteria that make good things for us, right? So it's a symbiotic relationship. So when we feed it well, it feeds us well. So that's how I want you to start thinking about it. And when you look at autoimmune disease, it also goes back to gut health as well, right? So there's a discrepancy in the gut wall. The immune system can see things that are going on or passing through, and that the body creates antibodies. And that's where we start getting things, the antibodies that attack the joints or attack the myelin sheath, and for example, MS or something like that. So the foods, one is it's removing the offending agents, right? So dairy is the number one. If I have someone who says like, I can't give up meat, it's like, could you please give up dairy? Dairy is so amazing. And when you remove it, people get a lot better. We talk about skin health, joint health, very, very quickly, constipation, gut, IBS stuff results. And just by removing cow's dairy, because at the end of the day, we're not cows, we're actually humans. And so if you think about the what dairy milk is made for is to grow a cow about 1,000 pounds in a year. Well, okay, humans, do you want to be dealing with all the things that are injected into that? So, and milk that you get off the shelf is not even the milk of yonder years. It's full of antibiotics and hormones and stuff, right? Because for a dairy cow to produce milk, it has to be in the state of just being pregnant or having had pregnancy. So there's a lot of stuff there that you don't want. And so, that's a whole other discussion. But then when you talk also about the gut health is where I would say this is most important to start. But it's fruits, it's vegetables, it's beans, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. There's so many phytochemicals. It's like an orchestra. It'd be like, okay, I want you to go play this very difficult, complex piece, but I need you to take out your woodwinds, or I need you to take out this. When I start saying, okay, only focus on these foods, I would want you to color the colors of the rainbow, the plants, and then all the different varieties, because they all work differently together. Actually, every plant food has every amino acids, but they have different levels. So that's why another thing people worry about, oh, I need to get my complete protein. You absolutely can do this with plants. We forget that the cow, the elephant, the gorilla, the hippo, all these amazing large mammals live and thrive off plants, and so can you. Plants are the only source of amino acids. They take the sun's energy, they use this little thing called photosynthesis, they bring up the nitrogen from the ground, and they create these amino acids. We eat those proteins, our body breaks them down, reshuffles the amino acids, and builds these proteins that we need as humans. So you can get that in a variety of places. Amazing bodybuilders, amazing athletes eat a plant-based diet and do amazingly well. I mean, we're talking Olympic athlete level. So don't worry about your protein. You'll be okay. You may need to do a few things to make sure you're getting enough if you have like bodybuilding goals and you're lifting weights and doing different things. Absolutely. But when it comes to mental health, I would say we got to get the microbiome going in the right direction. And that's the fiber. And that's all those amazing vitamins, phytochemicals, minerals that you get on a really nice, diverse, comprehensive plant-based diet.
Thank you. And I think, we talk about how to connect with practitioners, and I think Joe might have a question about connecting with practitioners.
Yeah, I mean, all this sort of ties in, and I think, that's one thing that I've seen in my life is well, to start, I know that I love the idea of telehealth. I like that you have people that won't go to the doctor, that sometimes will talk to someone if we can just make it easy. And so I know you started your own business doing so, and so you embrace technology in health as well. So one huge improvement that I've personally seen is in prosthetics. So I don't want to get into deep conversation, where the subject is loaded as Neuralink, but I think it does really stoke the imagination of what we're on the verge of being able to do. So I've loved video games. I'm sorry, what was that?
I thought it was incredible. Yeah, no, it's amazing.
It's really a cool concept. And I know one of their goals is to be able to control prosthetics. And so things like the Apple Vision Pro and the Meta Quest 3, these are things I've been waiting on my whole life before I even got injured. And now I had a friend of mine that was dealing with some really serious mental health isolation, self-isolation things. And it's so cyclical because, you blame yourself, and then but then things get so bad, you don't want to. Him and I jumped on a VR game and just sat in a chat room, like it's like a little fake environment, and just being able to see my hands move while I'm talking to him. He's like, I felt more connected to you as a human being than I felt connected to anybody in a year. And like that kind of broke my heart. And so there's so many opportunities for us to really use technology in ways to improve our lives. So, whether it's prosthetics, whether this Neuralink thing, whether it's, being able to walk around with a UI that tells you how fast you're walking and where you're going. I mean, we're on the verge of wearing an EKG on our wrist at all times, if we're not already doing it with the Apple Watches and things like that. So I for one, I love this. I think that the what makes humans special is our brains. And so when we can use this kind of stuff, I think that we can improve humanity as a whole, as long as we're doing it for the right reasons. So obviously being able to attack people, or, there's going to be vulnerabilities with this kind of stuff. But my question to you is not to touch on Neuralink or anything like that, but is there anything that you've read about technology-wise that is really exciting to you? And if so, is there something that you think would be a great idea that we're not currently doing? I know they're testing so much, and there's, human testing. All this stuff is going to have to be very carefully done, and it's just the truth. But is there
No,
anything that's really exciting to you?
there's a lot. I love gadgets, and I love wearing things. I got Whoops, I got iPhones, I've put CGMs on myself. I mean, you name it, I probably measured it if I can.
Yeah.
But I think there's two ways to look at this. One, you're looking at the advancement of technology to deal with the problem that we have, subpar currently answers for. I think that's phenomenal. Like when we're talking about prosthetics and things like that, they're going to give people movement and freedom without, with less pain and easier to deal with. And I mean, I'm no expert in prosthetics, but I think it's a fabulous place to go, or someone who's been paralyzed or dealing with stuff. So I think that alone it's mind blowing. For me, where technology came into really an amazing play, but I had to shift my thinking because I was trained, many decades ago to be a physician. I had some telemedicine experience. I trained in West Texas, and so there was some remote telemedicine. I thought, well, that's cool. But when I deployed in, what year was that? 07 to 08, I was able to utilize telemedicine because I was with the patient and I could connect with a specialist in Germany or a specialist in the States to deal with a very sick patient, right? So that was huge. I was like, well, that's cool. Well, then you move forward, then we come into, wow, I can see patients, right? There was a place where I worked for an acute care, like doctors on demand type thing, where people call in, and I had to rechange how I assess patients, discussing with them, really educating them. That changed my thought of what could be done. But the work that I do works very well with telemedicine. So I think it's that, like you described, that communication piece, seeing someone, I'm looking at you. I'm not looking at my computer doing this, right? Like a normal doctor's, I can actually see you and still type and take notes in my patients. We have AI that's helpful. And I think the AI piece is amazing. It'll help, I think the last time I heard it was like, I don't remember where it was, but one of the top killers of Americans was actually healthcare and errors. So when you look at AI, I think that's the exciting piece, is that we're going to do our jobs better and take our human, when we can remove the human element from the point of making decisions and the mistakes. I think that's really, really important. And, they can do the mundane task of administration burden from physicians, so we don't feel so burned out and we can spend more time with you as the patient. That's really important. But for me, that's where technology can take us and alleviate some of these mundane tasks. I can make great technology. I can learn and measure more. We can make some advancements in caring for patients and get them moving. But it all comes back to the problem with technology. It doesn't solve the problem that we just don't take good care of. We don't do the basic things we need to do. So the danger in technology is that it makes us even more complacent, or like, oh, well, this will take care of it now, right? This pill will take care of this. This will take care of that. We don't do what we need to do to take care of ourselves because we made it so difficult. I'm like, there was this TV or a movie, I can't remember what it was called. It was like this little robot, and they were on a spaceship of Earthlings, and they were all so fat and sick. They were like
Wally.
you remember that?
Yeah.
Wally, yes. And then he
Great
found the
movie.
plant. I was like, holy moly, if that's not speaking like prophetic, I don't know, because that's what I feel like we heading towards, is because technology does everything for us, then we're not going to be moving, right? Like we just push a button, feed me, push a button, food comes, so I feel like there needs to be, like you said, a balance, right? But we
Yeah.
need to get our environment moving, so we're walking more, that we're making easier and better decisions. We hold food companies and, you know, the system responsible for creating these frankenfoods that are making us sick and addicted. We need to deal with, you know, emotional dysregulation, you know, relationships breaking down. Our society in and of itself needs to understand that we need to raise our level of consciousness, like be aware of what we're doing to ourselves and others. So I feel like there's a piece here that still needs to be from the human being part, but the technology is amazing. But I don't want it to overshadow what we still need to do, the foundational work, so that we can actually utilize technology in the right way and not in the service of insanity, right? And so
Yeah.
really we come from it, from using it, how can we make this even, you know, promote the good part of being a human being even more so. So that's where I see we need to be very wise in our choices and our decision making, and step back and take time and give space to those decisions and really think about it long term.
So despite all the technology in the world, if we're not doing the right thing with the food, you know, it's not going to matter. We're, you know, the best bean is not human bean. It's a black bean. But speaking of food, I think Adam's got something for you. We're like, I love that our conversation is flowing. I feel like we could do this forever, but I do want to give everybody a chance for their questions, because I could talk forever.
Yeah, and I think look, you know, there's a lot of people, to include the veteran community, that really wants to eat better. And they want to be healthier. They want to live longer lives, you know, for some of the reasons that we touched on, for their family, their loved ones, and for themselves. You know, they don't want to wake up. I don't want to wake up in pain every day. I don't want a chronic disease as a life sentence. And I do think a lot of people are starting to raise their consciousness and wake up to food as thy medicine, as a philosophy. And that, just because a food is advertised doesn't mean it should be a core staple of your diet. Or that just because it tastes good doesn't mean that you should consume it every day to alleviate a stressor that you're not properly addressing. But you talked earlier, and I want to go back, because and this question is, I guess, like really for me. So one of the things you would eliminate in people's diet is dairy or the cow. And even way earlier, you know, I honed in when you kind of did some air quotes around grass-fed beef. And I think, like, look, I'm from Texas, you know, Dallas, Fort Worth. And so what a staple, you know, beef has been. So what is it? What am I missing about grass-fed beef? And I would assume that there's no grass-fed beef recipes in the Healing Kitchen. And I would love for you to be able to tie it into the recipes you're doing in there, because I think it's so cool what you're doing.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I would say, the context of animal products. So what is it about animal products that was promoting disease? So, you know, I kind of touched upon it with the dairy milk. You have all animal products have cholesterol, number one. When you remove cholesterol-laden products, your body will make the cholesterol it needs. Now, some individuals will continue to make cholesterol and they hyperabsorb it, so their cholesterol will maybe stay a little higher. But number one, heart disease, number one killer of Americans. Your bad cholesterol, LDL, is a driving force in that. It's a multifactorial disease, but I don't care what you hear and what blog you read, LDL, by studies, evidence-based, is an absolute driver of heart disease, as is inflammation. So when you consume animal products, there's inflammatory components to it, right? There's cytokines, there's a variety of things that I could go on and talk deep into. But it also contains and comes with cholesterol. I don't care if it's grass-fed. Now, it is better in the sense you're not getting hormones and, you know, all these antibiotics. They're actually eating the foods instead of grains. They're actually eating grass, right? So there is that piece, but in the end of the day, it still contains things that are going to promote disease. You know, I had a really
even if it's organic grass-fed beef, you're still bringing some of that into the equation.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I have a patient that I had that might highlight this a little bit better for you. Gentleman called in. It's like, hey, I have gout. I'm having it every 3 weeks. And I was like, what are you eating? He's like, well, you know, I started this keto diet. and now I'm getting the gout. And I'm like, okay, so what is your body telling you when you're getting gout? Have you thought about stopping the keto diet? And I was like, have you heard of this plant-based diet? He's like, yeah, but I've lost 50 pounds and I'm looking good. I was like, but I also see on here that you had a heart attack. He goes, yeah, I went to this keto diet in August. I had a heart attack in November. I had a cabbage. He just like went over, like, I had a cabbage. I had this open heart surgery where they tear it out from your chest and they
Oh
stick
my
this,
gosh.
like it was no big deal. And this was like February or something. And I was like, stop, let's back up the train and let's think about this. You go on a keto diet, you were already sick. You literally pushed yourself over the cliff. You had a heart attack, but you still want to eat something. And now your body is having gout attacks every 3 weeks. What is the message I'm missing? But I have 30 more pounds to lose. And I was like, dude, you will look great in your coffin. Okay, so this is the reality, right? They want to hear the things they want. It's like, just give me medication, right? I'm like, yeah, I can give you medication, but it's not going to fix the fire that's raging within your body. So that's the piece that I want to speak to. Now, like I said, there may be people who are like, I'm not giving up my meat. That's fine. Just add more plants, right? So I'm not saying you have to do anything I'm saying. I'm just telling you my experience and what the science says. And it all points to the more plants that are in your diet, the better you're going to be. And so, yeah, but it is the grass-fed, you're still getting elements of the things that are promoting things, especially heart disease. And so, yeah, when I could be eating more plants and more fiber, we only get about 12 to 15 grams of fiber per day. We should be hitting 25, 35. That's per RDA, the recommended daily allowance. Even still, I think that's anemic. When I calculate my fiber intake, it's like 75, 85 grams a day. And so that's really where you start seeing the benefits occurring.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate giving me kind of that clarification. I guess what I'm hearing is, even if it's organic, grass-fed, by nature of the product itself, of the animal, you're still bringing those things into your system. So you can maybe reduce it a little bit, but you're still exposing to it. And so, if you really want to be that healthy, wealthy, and wise person, eat more plants.
Eat more plants, give yourself 30 days on a plant-based diet. See what happens. I mean, and not just partially do it. Don't go eat the, processed vegan junk. I mean, like, really go whole food plant-based. Give yourself an opportunity to get well. See what your body does when you get out of the way. It's actually a blast to hear from patients like, why didn't I do this sooner? I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. So like, it's amazing. It's such a joy to see people really feel good.
I don't think I'm going to forget ever. You're going to look good in the coffin. Like, that'll stick with me.
One-liners, you gotta have a few.
That was a slap. Yeah, that was a good one.
I was in my frustrated point. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I was like, dude, come on.
But that really put an image in my head that's going to stick with me. So yeah, think about that, alphas. You're going to look good in your coffin. So now I need to make this a little bit easier on my husband. And I know we've taken up so much of your time. So I'm going to
please
lob a softball at you for like wrapping this question up. But listen, in my house, I'm the one who cooks. My husband does the dishes. He will burn boiling water. So for all of those other alphas out there, like my husband, who are no Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen, what kind of cooking tips do you have for them? Do you have any cooking classes? Like, where can they find some tips?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I think as a physician, I came into thinking I wanted to heal people. When I was 10, my sister had a surgery. She was 6 years younger than me, that she went from a very sickly kid to a kid that was just a pain in the arse. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to help people get well. Never in my mind did I ever think it would be talking about what you're cooking in the kitchen, but this is a big piece, right? So half of my appointments are like talking about foods and recipes and dealing with social stressors. And so when you're looking at the skill set in the kitchen, I am glad to say all of my children can cook, because I was a lazy chef. I was like, you guys come help me. Plus I didn't like chopping the onions. I'm like, you guys do it. You will be all right. You're younger. So anyway, from that standpoint, we need to learn some basic skills. We need to get us back in the kitchen. So if you are a family, bring your kids back into the kitchen. Quit giving it over to corporate America. Like, let's learn how to cook and spend time cooking the whole food. You know what's going into it. I don't care what you're cooking, at least you're cooking it at home. And the first thing I would say is learn to batch cook. Very simple things. I'm not sure about someone who could burn boiling water, but there is some pretty simple ways to do it. You could get like Instapot, you know, you could do, that's pretty simple. You just push buttons, you just add in the things and push a button and it just magically has, you do slow cookers, roasting vegetables, lots of things you can do. You can batch cook like grains, beans, roast some veggies, think about some different sauces, and you can make it a Mexican night, you can make it a curry night, all those different foods. You know, if you have, let's say, quinoa, brown rice, and some chickpea or black beans, and you have some roasted veggies, change out the sauce. You've got a wide variety of ethnic opportunities. One, I think batch cooking is a big piece, and making it simple. Don't try to be the gourmet. You know, look at the recipes. If you're craving something, like I grew up in New Mexico, I love Mexican food, and I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. So I would just Google plant-based enchiladas. I get the 5-star rating. I look at it. Do I have these things? What can I substitute if not? That would be the step one. Just start working and playing around in the kitchen with recipes. Canned beans are fine. Those are great. You know, again, if you find that you're more gassy when you enter to a plant-based diet, maybe pull back into lentils, making sure things are cooked, blended will help you start digesting. People, if you start throwing in a lot of fiber, your microbiome is going to go, well, hello, and start making some stuff. And, you know, byproduct of that is gas. And so you're going to be a little bit more gassy. It will subside with time. But again, those are some important things to just kind of keep in mind. But what can you bring into the kitchen as well? You could do, I like to buy like the baby greens already packaged. Or if you like the big old curly kale, I'm less of a fan in the sense it's just a lot of chewing. But some people could do that, steam it and mix it. I do smoothies every morning. Lunches, I have some roasted sweet potatoes in there. I do salads, I do falafels, you name it. You could do, there's so many things you can do, but just creating simple recipes, looking online. What we offer is the Healing Kitchen. I partnered with a wonderful young woman. Her name's Brittany Giroudi. She actually lost 70 pounds on a plant-based diet. She was only 4'11". And she's, now it's been 8-9 years later. The sustainability of weight loss is phenomenal. She started sharing her recipes online. So what we do is we meet live every Wednesday. She does the cooking, 2 recipes we send out. I answer medical questions, and then we do 2 expert workshops. So we bring in a cardiologist to talk about cholesterol and heart health. I do a workshop, like I've done one on labs. I've done one on osteoporosis. I've done one on the psychology of weight loss. I'm doing one tomorrow all about plant-based living. So again, lots of those things. That's the Healing Kitchen. Then I see patients independently, but I also have the psychology of weight loss, because beyond just eating plants, there's also, like we talked about, the habits and the psychology and the addiction and the food addiction, and we're eating to feed emotions and we're eating to feed boredom. What does that look like? Becoming mindful of what we're doing. And then the glucose mastermind. I love working with diabetics, pre-diabetics, people. We slap a CGM technology on them and we talk about the data and what it means. Like, these numbers have a story and how they evolve. So anyway, that's how my ecosystem we built. And those are answering those questions. We talk about how to do this simply, sustainably. It's cheap. If you go buy some bulk foods like the grains and the dried beans, man, these are some of the cheapest food you can get. So if you're on a budget, plant-based diet is very budget friendly.
Well, I definitely encourage all you Alpha listeners to go out there and find her on YouTube. She's tremendous. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Dr. Marbas, we really appreciate your time. We went over a little bit because the conversation was flowing. It was nice. But before you sign off, is there anything else that you want to share with us that we did discuss? Anything that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can find me at drmarbas.com. Super simple. And if you're looking for someone to see in person, I would check out the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. It's lifestylemedicine.org. These are practitioners who believe in the core principles of health, right? It's exercise, it's diet, it's the stress management, sleep, all these things that so many of us know what to do but are struggling to do. These people are educated. We're board certified in lifestyle medicine. And there's 10,000 strong. People could be physicians, they could be nurses, physical therapists. So if you're also a healthcare provider and are interested, that's a great place to start. And so I'd encourage it's a phenomenal place to get going.
Well, we sure do appreciate you. We're going to have links to all your social connections and everything we talked about in our show notes. And I just wanted to say thanks. You want to take us out of here, Adam?
Yeah, Dr. Marbas, thank you so much for visiting us today. Thank you for the journey that you've been on, for the expertise you've cultivated along the way, and for sharing that with your clients, but also broadcasting it out into the world. It's so needed, and so thank you. Alpha, stick around for some scuttlebutt after the break.
The American Legion is raising awareness about PTSD and veteran suicide by offering hope, camaraderie, and support.
Be the one to help end veteran suicide.
Be the one to save one veteran.
Be the one to ask a veteran in your life how they're doing.
Be the one to reach out when a veteran is struggling.
Go to betheone.org and help the American Legion end veteran suicide.
Will you be the one?
All right, Alphas. We hope you had a great break. It's now time for some scuttlebutt, sorry.
Well, Joe, while going down this Reddit rabbit hole, I came across a thread where someone claimed that Navy SEALs does not actually stand for sea, air, and land. I don't know what they were thinking about, but they said that this was actually stands for real life aquatic mammals, or SEALs. This screamed conspiracy theory on just about every level. Of like the mockumentary, The Day of the Dolphin, circa 1973, starring Mike Nichols. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you haven't, just do a quick Google search and you'll probably find it on YouTube.
I'm going to, because that sounds super interesting to me.
Yeah. So a guy at Zach180 said, quote, "In the early days of aquatic warfare in the 1950s during the Cold War, we had scientists secretly experimenting on what maritime animals could do to best assist armed forces in combat. Dolphins, sharks, jellyfish, and even sea cucumbers were all extensively studied to find out how they could aid us. It was found that these seals were almost as smart as dolphins, but they were easier to train and domesticate. So in 1962, we formed the first, sorry, I can't get through this without, the first Navy SEAL squadron comprised of actual SEALs. On August 17th, we sent this squadron of SEALs, sorry.
So like a herd or a flock? Like what is SEALs? A family? What
Flock
are
of seals? Flock of
Seals.
seals?
a murder of SEALs?
A murder of seals. We sent a squadron of SEAls to Shoida, a coastal town in the northeast corner of Okrug district in Russia. The SEAls successfully swam, say that 5 times twice, to the town where the Soviets were hiding nuclear assets and the bomb schematics. This feels like a real thriller of a movie.
It's legit. It's
legit.
ready for that.
I've seen this movie.
You've seen it, I'm sure. The SEALs overcame all 38 Soviet soldiers posted in the town using their flipper hand combat techniques and successfully destroyed nuclear assets and grabbed the schematics before barking into the night while swimming off into the cold Black Ocean. Wow,
I thought there was only 2 Soviet soldiers in the nuclear silo. That's way more than the IMTO.
It was amazing.
I want to see their tattoos.
Listen, at Zach180, you are an incredibly awesome writer. But listen, it's no secret that Navy SEALs have been using dolphins for years. So there is a thread of truth in your story. But to what extent? Probably not much. So the Navy's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance site, on their website, there's a tab, and for the actual marine mammal program, and this is legit. This is no like Reddit rabbit hole. But anyway, it says, and I quote, "Since 1959, the U.S. Navy has trained dolphins and sea lions as teammates for our sailors and Marines to help guard against similar threats underwater. The Navy's marine mammal program has been home ported on La Pointe Loma since 1960s. So it goes without saying that in the early years of the program, more than a dozen different species of marine mammals, as well as sharks, stingrays, sea turtles, and marine birds, those murders of crows we've been talking about, and our pigeons, were tested and their sensory and physical capabilities were explored. Today, the Navy relies on 2 species, a bottlenose dolphin and the California sea lion. So remember,
I was gonna say
yeah.
My cousin actually was on the dolphin training team in the Navy, and I was so bewildered by this. Like in the early 2000s, when I found out his job in the military was going to actually be training these dolphins. And I, however, would like to think that there's an elite team of SEALs out there that are ready to deploy worldwide in a moment's notice. And that, maybe after all the hardships of that SEAL is coming back and looking to maybe start a foundation to help other SEALs.
You wouldn't admit if you got beat up by a SEAL, you'd never tell anyone. So, I mean, for all we know, this guy could be telling the truth, because who's going to be like, yeah, a couple of SEALs came in here and just demolished us. I'm not even going to lie. Me and my comrades.
That's the world I want to live in.
Mike Kalashnikov had nothing against the flippers.
That's true. How are they going to write a book? That's a really good point. SEALs are supposed to write a book, and victors are the ones that write history. So, I mean, unless they dictate.
I was going to say, there's now these great auto dictate programs. So if they can grab schematics, they can write a book.
How did they know schematics? It could have been like McDonald's menus.
We've gotten to the silo, but we need the schematics.
We need the schematics. Send the SEALs.
The files are in the computer.
They're in the computer? In the computer. So what about you, Joe? What do you got for some scuttlebutt?
So I've got some pretty serious shenanigans, and it's a word that I like to say and probably couldn't spell without the assistance of autocorrect. But so WWLP 22 News in Western Massachusetts, say that 3 times fast without cursing, reported on a story that has me asking so many questions. So it seems that police in Sutton, Massachusetts were surveying the parking lot of a Red Roof Inn, as one does, I suppose, and they spied a suspicious looking character sitting in a vehicle. So when police approached and spoke to the man, they saw evidence of illegal narcotic use and decided to search the vehicle. And that's when they found a small amount of crack, as one does, and a M190 U.S. Army rocket launcher.
Holy crow.
That's it. That's the story. So where do we start? I suggest high on crack with a rocket launcher. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, well.
He knows how to party.
He does.
The dealer might have laced the crack with something. What's worse?
I mean, having something that expensive and not having sold it for crack, maybe this guy's on the mend. I mean, this is good. Things are looking up.
You imagine being the commander and like getting this call. Yes, he had significant amount of crack cocaine and also a rocket launcher.
But just one.
The article
where in the barracks parking lot.
The article didn't elaborate on whether he actually had a round for this RPG. So
yeah, and but the thing is, though, is I don't really care so much about the truth. I want to hear his version of events.
Yeah.
A good sensational story usually beats the truth out anyway. I wonder what Zach 690 or 180 has to say about this one.
Oh man, can you imagine?
Yeah, wow. He probably stole it from the SEALs.
Probably.
Yeah.
My question is, this was a military veteran, or were they active duty? Or did they just were they a civilian that worked on post at the army and they're like, hell yeah, I'm going to take this while I go out for some crack. See if them dealers try and rob me this time. Watch me. And they shoulder their launcher. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it takes 30 seconds to get those things fully loaded up. So I don't know. I feel like you just wait.
Dial it in.
You're typing in the codes.
Meanwhile, the dealer's running in the opposite direction. But I will say, if you want to talk about intimidating a dealer for their money or their crack, bring a rocket launcher.
Or a bow
Bold
and arrow.
statement.
I mean, it's an opposite thing, but anybody with a bow and arrow is like, I don't know what they're doing, but I don't want any part of it.
I feel that way about a machete.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
Like why do you need that machete?
You see a lot of people with machetes at them.
I actually saw somebody walking down the dirt road the other day with a machete, and I was like, "This is concerning."
I saw a guy walking down the road in a hot dog costume. Same effect, actually. I was like, I'm not going anywhere near this guy.
You immediately think, "Man, I wish I had some mustard."
Or you immediately think they too are on crack.
Yes, and they have plenty of places to hide that the M18, 190 U.S. Army rocket launcher. Go Army! Where's your rocket launchers? We have a link for that in the show notes as well.
Well, he sounds like a real warrior there, and this kind of leads into our next scuttlebutt, but different type of warrior. 2024 is the year of the warrior in Texas, in Colony, Texas, that is. Holly Riddle Post 21 Commander Mary Garcia has declared 2024 as the year of the warrior. We will make it a priority to find ways to help our Legionnaires and post family members regain their warrior identity through personal development of mind, body, and spirit. Commander Garcia said, "We will find that inner warrior that we may have forgotten about in the last several years." This post just kicked off this initiative with a Rebuilding Warriors wellness session this past January. The event centered on rebuilding physical strength, mental acuity, emotional balance, and a comprehensive approach to health and vitality. At this event, they had professional trainers, an outlaw fit camp, free walking gait analysis, and presentation on benefits of walking, balance, and movement, discussion about nutrition, safety restarting workouts after inactivity or an injury, demonstration of these exercises and activities for increased mobility, flexibility, and cardiovascular health. So a really awesome event coming out of the Holly Riddle Post 21. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, I think this is really, really great. So many people have talked about the Legion being a place where, they drink and smoke, but I think this is proof right here that the Legion is offering so much more and are really expanding of the health and well-being of its members and their family members.
I agree. And we've touched upon a couple of different posts that have really jumped out and tried to do some stuff like between parks and lakes and family event locations where it makes it where there's an easy, safe place for Legion members and their family and even local people to come out and have a safe place to go. I love this. I like this whole body, whole mind, whole spirit approach to health. This is how you fix stuff. You can't, it's mind, body, and spirit. And if you don't do something for all three of those, you can go a long time with two. And you could even float with just one every once in a while. But if you don't hit these things, from the core up, from nutrition to getting involved and being part of like a group of people doing something like that, and then helping get your body right, they're learning. I mean, this is just incredible. And I'm 100% behind anybody who tries to improve themselves like this.
I think the other thing here is fitness, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you pay for fitness classes? I mean, this alone is worth it.
Well, I think it's really awesome. I think 2024 really is and can be the year of the warrior. And it also, ties in nicely, to the episode we had today with Dr. Marbas, talking about the mind, body, and spirit, and talking about the holistic health and wellness journey and how, eating ties into that. And so this is really looking at, and I like where they say, we will find that inner warrior that may have forgotten about in the last several years. And part of that warrior spirit, that warrior mentality is being strong, like you said, Joe, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, hold on, wait a second, spiritually, I'm spiritually bankrupt. What does that mean? Just asking yourself the question, how do I maintain a spiritual balance and presence to step into the warrior that I'm supposed to be that service oriented, leader. So I love what they're doing here. I love how they're including the family in the community. And at the end of the day, you're never too old, and it's never too late to rebuild the warrior inside of you. Legion Town is a user-generated platform where members of the American Legion family submit tons of great stories about what's happening in their posts and communities. Go to legiontown.org to get ideas and inspiration, or to share what's going on at your post.
All right, Alphas, thank you guys so much for listening. You can subscribe to our podcast or newsletter, and you can send us mail and guest recommendations at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, I think